The Galactic Council's observatory deck had never felt so small. Admiral Korath Sylvain pressed his palms against the viewing portal, watching the human fleet emerge from hyperspace like ghosts returning from the dead.
18 months of silence.
18 months of wondering if humanity had finally bitten off more than they could chew, the ships that materialized. Before the Council station bore little resemblance to the pristine vessels that had departed, scorched hull plating told stories of unimaginable heat. Gouges in the armor spoke of claws the size of shuttlecraft, and their Korath's breath caught streaks of something dark and viscous, coating the forward sections like war paint. "Sweet nebulas," whispered Counselor Thex Morvain, her scaled hide rippling with nervous energy. "What have they been fighting out there?" Captain Alina Vasquez materialized on the transport pad with the same confidence she'd possessed before. Leaving, but Korath's trained, I caught the differences. New scars traced silver lines across her jaw. Her uniform bore subtle modifications, reinforced at the shoulders, additional utility clips, and was that a combat knife at her hip. Alina had never carried weapons during diplomatic missions. "Admiral Sylvain," she said, her voice carrying that familiar warmth that had haunted his dreams for months. "Permission to dock the fleet?" "Granted," Korath replied, trying to keep his tone professional despite the way his pulse quickened at seeing her again. "Though I must ask, Captain, what exactly happened out there?" Alina's smile held secrets. "We found them, Korath. The Devourers weren't extinct after all." The council chamber erupted in chaos. Dex's tail lashed violently against her chair. Dr. Marcus Reed, Elena's science officer, stepped forward with a data pad that trembled in his hands. The Devourers had established breeding colonies in the Void sector, Marcus explained, his voice steady despite his obvious exhaustion. 17 worlds, billions of them, growing stronger, preparing for another expansion wave. "Impossible," Dex hissed. "The Devourers were eliminated 3 centuries ago. The entire galaxy united to destroy them." "The entire galaxy failed," Alina said quietly. "They went dormant, not extinct. And when they started waking up, they began by consuming the outer settlements. Human settlements." Korath studied Elena's face, searching for the woman he'd known before, the one who'd argued passionately for peaceful exploration, who'd shared quiet moments with him discussing philosophy over Alterian wine. That woman was still there, but she'd been tempered by something harder. "How many?" he asked. 37 colonies before we realized what was happening," Alina replied. "After that, we stopped counting settlements and started counting ships." The blood on their hulls suddenly made terrible sense. Korath moved closer to Alina, close enough to catch her scents, still that subtle fragrance of earth jasmine, but now underscored with something metallic and sharp. "You hunted them," he said. "It wasn't a question. We protected the galaxy," Alina corrected, but her eyes met his with an intensity that made his chest tighten. "Someone had to."
Actor.
Red activated a holographic display showing star charts marked with red zones. "We tracked them to their source worlds and eliminated the breeding populations. It took everything we had." "Everything?" Thex demanded. Elena's hand moved unconsciously to her combat knife. "Some things change you, Thex. Sometimes you have to become something you never wanted to be to protect what matters." The unspoken weight of those words settled over the chamber. Korath found himself stepping closer to Alina, drawn by something he couldn't name, admiration, concern, or perhaps something deeper that had been growing in the silence of her absence. "The Council will need full reports," he said softly, meant for her ears alone. "Of course," Alina replied, her voice dropping to match his intimate tone. "But some conversations are better held in private." The promise in her eyes sent warmth through his chest, even as questions multiplied in his mind about what humanity had become in the darkness between stars. Lieutenant Commander Zara Chinokafer stood in the xenobiology lab, her fingers dancing across holographic DNA sequences that shouldn't exist. Beside her, diplomatic envoy Axel Draven watched the bioluminescent patterns beneath his blue-skin pulse in rhythm with his fascination. "These genetic markers," Zara murmured, zooming in on a particularly complex helix. "They're not natural evolution. The Devourers were engineered." Axel leaned closer, his shoulder brushing hers. The contact sent electricity through both of them. Sensation that had been building since their first meeting 3 days ago? Engineered by whom? That's the terrifying question, Zara replied, acutely aware of his proximity. Someone created the perfect predator species and then lost control of it. In the council chambers above, General Quinn Stormridge faced a room full of skeptical alien faces. His weathered features bore the weight of command decisions that had cost him sleep for months. "You want to understand our methods?" Quinn asked, activating a tactical display. "The Devourers don't negotiate. They don't retreat. They consume everything in their path until there's nothing left but empty worlds." Ambassador Nyx Teranisa, crystalline form refracting the chamber's light into prismatic patterns, spoke with a voice like wind chimes. "Yet you claim to have defeated them. How?" "We adapted," Quinn said simply. "Human warfare doctrine is based on one principle: whatever it takes to protect our own." Back in the lab, Axel found himself studying Zara's profile as she worked. Concentration in her dark eyes, the way she bit her lower lip when processing. Complex state, everything about her drew him in despite the cosmic implications of their discoveries. "Zara," he said softly, using her first name for the first time. She looked up, and the intensity in her gaze made his breath catch. "When this is over," Wuji alarms suddenly screamed through the station. Red lights bathed the lab in crimson. As Zara's communicator crackled to life. "All senior staff to emergency stations," came Elena's voice. "We have incoming." The main view screen showed them emerging from Hyperspace 3 Devourer scout ships, their biomechanical hulls pulsing. With malevolent life, they'd followed the human fleet home. Possible, Vex breathed. "Your reports said they were all eliminated." "We eliminated the breeding colonies," Elena corrected grimly. "But some hunting packs were already dispersed throughout the galaxy." Axel grabbed Zara's hand as the station shuddered under weapons fire. Her fingers intertwined with his instinctively, both drawing strength from the contact.
Ow.
"Bridge to all sections," Elena's voice commanded. "Prepare for emergency protocols." Through the viewports, they watched human ships move with predatory grace. These weren't the exploratory vessels that had left months ago. They were weapons of war. Every line redesigned for one purpose. General Stormridge's voice echoed through the station. "Devourer vessels, you have violated Galactic Council space. Surrender now or be destroyed."
Oh.
The Devourer's response was a coordinated attack on the station's defensive grid. But the humans were ready. Zara watched in amazement as human fighters moved in patterns that defied conventional tactics. They didn't try to outgun the enemy, they herded them, using the Devourer's own aggression against them. "They're not just fighting," she whispered to Axel. "They're hunting." The battle was over in 12 minutes. The Devourer ships hung dead. In space, their crews eliminated with surgical precision. No prisoners, no survivors. In the aftermath, as emergency lights dimmed to normal, Axel still held Zara's hand. Neither wanted to let go. "Is the genetic sequences you found," he said quietly. "Do they tell us who created the Devourers?" Dara's expression darkened. "That's just it. The markers aren't alien. They're familiar. Too familiar." Before Axel could ask what she meant, Elena's voice filled the lab. "All department heads to the briefing room. It's time the council learned the whole truth." As they walked through corridors, still echoing with the aftermath of battle, Axel realized something had fundamentally changed. The humans hadn't just returned as allies, they'd returned as something else entirely. And despite the danger that represented, he found himself more drawn to Zara than ever. "Whatever we're about to learn," he said softly, "we'll face it together." Zara squeezed his hand, her smile both grateful and sad. "You might not feel that way after you hear what we discovered about the Devourer's origin." Dr. Myra Blackwood's hands trembled as she initiated the laboratory's highest security protocols. Across from her, Prince Kale Nightwhisper materialized into his preferred humanoid form, his energy-based essence coalescing into features that were both alien and achingly beautiful. "You're certain about this?" Kale asked, his voice carrying harmonics that resonated in Mira's chest. "The genetic analysis doesn't lie," Mira replied, pulling up the final test results. The Devourers share base genetic markers with 17 known Galactic Council species. Kale moved closer, his ethereal form generating a warmth that drew her like gravity, including mine. Mira nodded, her throat tight, including yours and mine. The revelation hung between them like a live wire. In the months they'd worked together, their professional collaboration had evolved into something deeper, stolen moments between experiments, hands that lingered during data transfers, conversations that stretched far past duty shifts. The Council created them, Kale said, the terrible truth finally spoken aloud. Centuries ago, some faction within the Council engineered the perfect weapon. And then lost control, Mira added, turning to face him fully. The Devourers were meant to be biological weapons, but they evolved beyond their programming. Kale's form flickered with emotional distress, energy patterns shifting to deeper blues and purples. Without thinking, Mira reached out to touch his face. Her hand passed through his cheek, but somehow connected with his essence, providing comfort on a level beyond physical touch. "Hey," she whispered, "we'll figure this out." "Will we?" Kale's eyes, currently a deep violet, met hers. "If the Council created the Devourers, then humanity has been fighting a war we started." In the tactical center, Captain Rico Santos stood before a three-dimensional battle map showing the Devourer territories humanity had cleared. Counselor Vera Moonshade, her feline features twisted with disbelief, studied the tactical displays. 17 breeding worlds, Rico reported, each one defended by approximately 50,000 adult Devourers, plus untold numbers of larvae. You fought nearly 1 million of them. Vera's tail lashed with nervous energy. "We didn't fight them," Rico corrected grimly. "We exterminated them. There's a difference." The tactical displays showed the systematic destruction of world after world. Human fleets had developed new weapons specifically designed to counter Devourer biology. The images were clinically efficient and utterly ruthless. Back in the laboratory, Mira found herself drawn into Kale's arms, or what passed for arms in his current configuration. His energy form enveloped her in warmth and light, a sensation unlike anything physical touch could provide. "I've been thinking about you," he admitted, his voice barely above a whisper. "During the nights when my people meditate in the cosmic winds, you're there in my thoughts." Mira's heart raced. "Kale, ... double quotes. I know the complications," he continued, his form solidifying slightly in response to her presence. "My people don't typically form attachments to corporeal beings. Your people don't typically trust energy entities. But I can't stop feeling this." She pressed closer to his stabilized form, her hands finding substance where his chest would be. "I feel it too. These past months, working beside you, seeing how you think, how you care about getting the answers right." Their lips met in a kiss that bridged the gap between matter and energy. Kale's essence flowed around her like starlight, while her physical presence gave him an anchor he'd never known he needed. The intimate moment was shattered by alarms. Emergency broadcasts flooded the station as more ships appeared on long range. Sensors not Devourers this time, but Council vessels from multiple species, all demanding explanations. "The secret's out," Mira said, checking her secure communications. "Someone leaked the genetic data." Kale's form flickered with determination. "Then we finish this properly. The Council needs to know not just what humanity did, but why they had to do it." Captain Rico's voice echoed through the station. "All senior staff to the main assembly hall. It's time for the galaxy to learn what we learned in the void." As they prepared to face the crisis, Mira took Kale's hand, energy and flesh intertwining. In defiance of physical laws, "Whatever happens next," she said, "I'm glad we found each other in the middle of this nightmare." Kale's smile could have powered a small star. "When this is over, I want to show you the Aurora Gardens of my homeworld. They sing in frequencies that match your laughter." "It's a date," Mira replied, though both wondered if they'd survive the coming storm long enough to keep that promise. Commander Phoenix Reyes stood on the observation deck of her flagship, watching the assembled Council fleet through the viewport. 47 ships representing 23 different species, all demanding answers about humanity's role in the Devourer crises. Behind her, Lord Dante Starweaver folded his magnificent wings. their feathers still glowing with the bioluminescent patterns that had fascinated Phoenix during their quiet moments together over the past week. "They're afraid of us," Dante observed, his voice carrying the melodic tones of his people. "They should be," Phoenix replied without turning around. "We became something monstrous to fight monsters." Dante moved closer, his presence a warmth against her back. "You are not monstrous, Phoenix. You are magnificent and terrible and necessary." She turned in his arms, her hands tracing the strong lines of his face. In the soft light of distant stars, the Seraphim Lord looked like something from ancient Earth mythologies, beautiful and otherworldly. "Do you know what we did out there?" she whispered. "The things we had to become?" "Tell me," he said simply. "We stopped trying to be human," Phoenix admitted. "We studied the Devourers, learned their psychology, their biology, their fears, and then we used everything against them." Hans found the fastenings of his ceremonial robes, while his wings enfolded them both in privacy. "We didn't just kill them, Dante. We hunted them, made them afraid." For the first time in their existence, the Devourers knew terror. "And it changed you," he said. "Not a question, but understanding. Completely." Phoenix's lips found his throat, tasting the salt-sweet flavor of his skin. "Every human who fought in that war came back different. We remember what it feels like to be apex predators." Their lovemaking was desperate and tender to beings from different worlds finding solace in each other amid the chaos. Dante's wings created a cocoon of intimacy, while Phoenix lost herself in sensations that made her forget, briefly, the weight of command and the cost of victory. Later, as they lay entwined on the narrow bunk, Dante's fingers traced the scars on Phoenix's shoulders, marks left by devourer claws during a boarding action that had gone wrong. "Show me," he said softly. Phoenix activated her personal data pad, displaying footage from the war. The recordings showed human soldiers moving through devourer ships with lethal efficiency. But it was their eyes that told the real story cold, calculating utterly without mercy. "We learned to enjoy it," Phoenix said, her voice barely audible. "The hunt, the kill, the victory. And that terrifies me more than anything the Devourers ever did." In the council chambers, engineer Iris Goldsmith presented technical schematics to High Magistrate Oren Voidkeeper and the assembled representatives. Her hands moved with nervous energy as she explained humanity's new weapons. "These are bioneural disruptors," Iris said, highlighting components of the human arsenal.
How?
"They specifically target devourer nervous systems. Weapons literally. Cause their prey to feel hunted." Oren's tentacles writhed with distress. "You weaponized fear itself?" "We weaponize everything," Iris replied. "Psychology, biology, even their own reproduction cycles. We turn their strengths into weaknesses and their instincts into traps." Chamber fell silent as representatives processed the implications. These weren't just weapons of war, they were instruments of systematic extermination. Back on Phoenix's ship, Dante studied the tactical recordings with growing understanding. "You didn't just fight them, you out-evolved them." "In 18 months?" Phoenix confirmed. "Humanity compressed millions of years of evolutionary pressure into a year and a half of constant warfare. We became something new, something dangerous," Dante added, but his tone held admiration rather than fear. "To everything," Phoenix agreed, "including ourselves." Dante's wings rustled as he pulled her closer. "The Council will vote tomorrow on whether to accept humanity as members or exile you as a threat. And you?" Phoenix asked. "What do you think they should do?" Dante was quiet for a long moment, considering. Finally, he said, "I think the galaxy needs protectors who understand what it means to pay the real price for peace, even if that price is your own humanity." Phoenix felt tears she hadn't allowed herself to shed in months. "I love you for saying that. I'm terrified that you might be right." Outside their sanctuary, the Council fleet maintained its vigilant watch, while in the depths of space, automated monitoring stations detected troubling signals, more Devourer scouts drawn by the recent battle. The war, it seemed, was far from over. The Grand Assembly Hall had never hosted such a momentous gathering. Representatives from 43 species filled the chamber as Supreme Chancellor Korath Sylvain, recently elected in an emergency session, called for order. The vote on humanity's status would reshape galactic civilization. Admiral Elena Vasquez stood at the center of it all. No longer just a captain, but the elected spokesperson for all human military forces. Beside her, the other couples who had found love amid chaos waited for judgment. Zara and Axel holding hands despite diplomatic protocol. Myra, with Kale's energy form, flickering protectively nearby. Phoenix with Dante's wings partially spread. In a gesture of defiance, "The evidence is clear," Chancellor Korath began, his silver skin reflecting the chamber's lights. "Humanity has eliminated a threat that the Council failed to contain centuries ago. But the methods employed raise fundamental questions about the nature of civilized warfare." Councillor Thex Morvain rose from her seat, scales rippling with agitation. "They've become killers. Efficient, ruthless killers. How do we know they won't turn on us next?" Elena stepped forward. "Because we already had that choice, Counselor. When we discovered the Council's role in creating the Devourers, we could have come here seeking revenge. Instead, we came seeking alliance." The chamber erupted in murmurs. Even now, the full implications of the genetic evidence hadn't sunk. And for many representatives, Dr. Mira Blackwood activated the main display, showing the definitive genetic analysis. "The Devourers were created by a secret faction within the early Council," she announced. "Species from 17 member worlds contributed genetic material to engineer the perfect biological weapon. That was 3 centuries ago," protested Ambassador Nyx Terranese. "And the consequences lasted until 18 months ago," Kale responded, his energy form pulsing with controlled emotion. "When humanity finally finished cleaning up our mess," in the diplomatic gallery, Axel Draven found himself rising to address his own people's delegation. "The Viridian Republic moves to not only accept humanity into the Council, but to offer them leadership of our new military alliance." The chamber fell silent. Such a proposal was unprecedented. Zara looked at Axel with surprise and love. His bioluminescent markings glowed brighter as he continued. "We have seen their footage, studied their tactics. Humanity doesn't just fight, they solve problems, permanently." General Quinn Stormridge stepped forward with Phoenix at his side. "The proposal has merit. Our long-range sensors detect Devourer activity in 12 sectors. The breeding colonies we destroyed were not the only ones. This war is entering its second phase." A holographic star map showed the new threat zones, vast areas of space where Devourer scouts were probing for weaknesses. Lord Dante Starweaver spread his wings fully, a gesture of formal declaration among his people. "The Seraphim Dominion seconds the Viridian proposal. Let those who understand the price of survival lead those who have been protected from it." The vote, when it came, was closer than expected, but decisive. 31 species in favor. 12 opposed, 3 abstentions. Humanity was not only accepted into the Galactic Council, but granted command authority over the new combined defense fleet. As the session concluded, Alina found herself in Korath's private office, sharing the Alterian wine they'd discovered. Together months before the war began. "You've changed," he said softly, studying her face. "We all have," Alina replied. "The question is whether you can love what we've become." Korath set down his glass and pulled her close. "I can love you, Alina. All of you. What you were, what you are, what you're becoming." Their kiss was answer enough. In the weeks that followed, the new alliance took shape with remarkable speed. Human tactical doctrine was integrated with Council technologies. Mixed crews learned to fight alongside each other. Most importantly, the various romantic partnerships that had formed during the crisis became symbols of the new cooperation. Zara and Axel's wedding was broadcast across 17 worlds, the first ceremony to unite human and Viridian bloodlines. Myra and Kale's bonding ritual required technologies that bridged matter and energy, creating precedents for future human-Etherian relationships. Phoenix and Dante chose a simple military ceremony aboard the flagship, their vows spoken while hyperspace streamed past the viewports. But perhaps the most significant moment came when the first joint Human Council fleet deployed to face a new Devourer incursion in the Outer Rim. Alina stood on the bridge of the UCS Defiant, now flagship of the combined fleet, watching ships from a dozen species move in perfect coordination. "Contact," reported the sensor officer, young Catherine, whose feline features showed fierce concentration. 15 Devourer vessels, moving to intercept colony ships. "All ships," Alina commanded, "assume hunting formation. Let's remind them why they should have stayed extinct." The battle was swift and decisive. The Devourers, encountering unified resistance for the first time, retreated after losing half their force. As the fleet regrouped, Alina received a message from the Devourer flagship, not a threat or demand, but something unprecedented, a request for negotiation. No. Standing in her quarters that night, Alina looked out at the stars and allowed herself a moment of hope. Humanity had returned from the darkness changed, dangerous, and stained with alien blood. But they had also returned with something unexpected, the power to transform that darkness into light. The galaxy would never be the same. For the first time since the war began, Alina thought that might actually be a good thing. Her communicator chimed with a message from Korath. "The Council has approved your proposal for the Deep Space Academy." "Congratulations, Admiral," Alina smiled. The Academy would train the next generation of defenders, human and alien, working together, learning not just how to fight, but when not to fight. Perhaps her greatest victory wouldn't be against the Devourers, but in ensuring that future conflicts could be resolved without anyone having to become monsters. Outside her viewport, the combined fleet's ships patrolled the void, their hulls gleaming clean under the starlight. The bloodstains were gone, but the memories remained, a reminder of the price of peace and the courage required to pay it.